Are you confused on what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, and where should you eat? It is confusing on figuring out what you should eat to improve fat loss, performance, and longevity. So let's talk to my guest, Amy Berger, today to end the confusion.
Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey guys, it's Debbie, and have you used a CGM before? CGM is continuous glucose monitor, and there's different options out there. Ideally, you can get it from your doctor, but they seem to just want to wait until you're type 2 diabetic and not be preventative. I would like us to take ownership of our health and make choices now to prevent having high, low glucose readings and optimize your health from the inside out by testing and not guessing. And that includes a CGM that goes on for 14 days, and you can order one via NutriSense. And a CGM is giving you glucose updates with a small device in the back of your arm, 24/7. Totally easy. I actually did a video on my YouTube channel, Low Carb Athlete, how to apply this CGM. First time, you're kind of scared, but it doesn't hurt. But it gives you real-time glucose readings. Glucose response to meals. You'll learn about what foods are reactive to you, and that could be a healthy food that you think is great, but it could raise your glucose. Simple things as stevia, for me, raise my glucose. Chewing gum, raise my glucose. Stress, when I'm driving a car and there's traffic, raises my glucose. Every stress response is a glucose response. So learn how to manage your stress. Learn how to pick right foods for you, unless you can, do other lab testing and figure out vibrant wellness food zoomers, but it's kind of expensive for people. So if you can wear a CGM, it's a great way to learn about stress, food, exercise, stacking movement with your nutrition. Figure out how to balance your blood sugar. So we want to learn more about how to exercise and eat or not eat. And morning cortisol, does it raise your glucose? If there's hidden stressors at nighttime, does your glucose go up higher while you're sleeping? So it gives us lots of clues that we can put in our investigation when we are working on your personalized fueling, training, and performance program to improve fat loss, performance, and longevity. So head to NutriSense website, nutrisense.io, how it works. You can learn more about your habits, your routines, your relationship to food, a little bit more. Great app to use, and it can sync on to different programs, so you can put it all together. So if you want to get started with your journey in NutriSense, I suggest this to all my clients. Use at least 30 days. So you can do a 30-day, 90-day, different programs, but you can pick which one you want. You get the sensor in the mail, put it on, lasts for 14 days, sync it to the app, and get your readings on there. And then if you're doing my VIP coaching program, I'm working with you to correlate this data together. So begin your health optimization journey with NutriSense, and you can save on your order with our code, as usual, Low Carb Athlete. So no carbs is not our goal, it's carb timing, and using NutriSense, you can help figure out your nutrient-dense whole food plan and when to adjust your macros based on your exercise intensity, duration, based on your life stressors, and learn more. So it's nice to have this data. So test and not guess with NutriSense. Let me know how you like it. So if you don't follow Amy Berger yet, you should. She is on YouTube, and I just saw her today making her first post on Instagram. But she is really fun, and I love she just keeps it real. Amy is a U.S. Air Force veteran and certified nutrition specialist who helps people do keto Without the Crazy. She's a very good writer, and she writes a lot about the wide range of health and nutrition related topics as insulin, weight loss, diabetes, Alzheimer's, thyroid function, and more. She's presented internationally and is the author of the Alzheimer's Antidote. Alzheimer's Antidote is something we should read. The Stall Slayer, and co-author with Dr. Eric Westman of the book End Your Carb Confusion. She is also the lead nutritionist for the Adapt Your Life Academy, where she helps create course content and coaches people through implementing low carb diets, keto diets safely and effectively. She also helped create the American Nutrition Association's Ketogenic Nutrition Training Program curriculum, which is now on the BCNS exam review committee, and she writes more. She's writing the credentialing board exam for certified nutrition specialists. So she's very accomplished. And we're going to talk a little bit about carb confusion, keto, and thyroid as she's writing her next book on thyroid health. So let's dive into what the Amy Berger has to say about nutritional ketosis, keto, carnivore, are all carbs evil? How do we improve the aging process, and more? So let's bring on Amy. All right, I've got the fun Amy Berger back to talk shop, how to keep things simple about how to eat, how to be our best self, how to survive our crazy world. Amy, thanks for coming on the show and talking shop with me today.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Well, I was just saying how I always love talking to you because you just keep it simple. And I'm really wanted you on the show because you explain things and just keto, carnivore, hormones. There's just so much going on right now in our community that I think it's getting even more confusing because people keep hearing about the strict carnivore and then, okay, ketosis. Should I be chasing ketones? Should I be in nutritional ketosis? And then we're going to talk a little bit, hopefully, about your new book on thyroid health because everyone's got low thyroid, everyone's got stress, and we've got, we're aging females here and males that we want to optimize our health for our future self. How do we show up and live our best life when we're 70, 80, 90 years old is more my focus now as I'm 51 now. And just like, all right, watching my mom age, watch my dad just passed away last year. And that's my goal is to how to be my best self and thrive when I'm 80. So what about you? What's going on in your world?
Well, like you said, I'm working on a thyroid book. It's taking a lot longer than I had planned, but I've enlisted a co-author, and she is a nurse practitioner with a ton of experience in this area. So hopefully the book's going to be a much better, stronger book. It just means it's going to take a lot longer to get it done. But other than that, I moved, well, not just, it feels like just 3 months ago from North Carolina to a small town in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia. So I love it here. It's beautiful. I don't really know anyone here. I need to get out more and make some friends, but I no regrets about the relocation.
Yeah, I've never been there, but I heard it's beautiful. And I know
there's hiking here and there's farms and wineries, and it just, the scenery, like the view from my balcony is really, really nice of just the hills and everything. It's a great place, and it's a couple of hours from DC. I guess that's the closest major city. So decent location.
Yeah, that's why, I think I say the quality of life move is when we moved here to North San Diego, and then just being able to, as I'm outside right now, and just to live more in the outdoors and have that morning sunshine exposure to start our day off right and getting that fresh air. But mountain air for you, I bet, and hiking would be amazing. I'm always love the mountains, but love the ocean, and how to be in both. It's a great spot.
Yeah.
So going back to what you're saying, your new book, what made you want to write a new book, and why thyroid?
Well, writing is actually my first passion. I am a nutritionist, but my undergraduate degree is in creative writing, believe it or not. And I've just always loved to write, and I've written, 3 other books. And I have been dealing with hypothyroidism myself for I don't know, 7 years, at least 8 years. And having been through it myself, and I've been very fortunate to connect with really savvy practitioners, really savvy doctors and nurse practitioners who have really been able to help me. But so many of my clients, and I'm sure yours too, have hypothyroidism and it's not being treated properly, or we suspect they have it and they're not diagnosed because the right tests aren't being done. And you will struggle mightily to lose weight, even on a low carb or ketogenic diet or carnivore diet, if your thyroid hormones aren't where they need to be. And people come to me desperate for help. What do I need to eliminate this? Should I change this? Should I fast more? What should I do? Meanwhile, the problem is actually not the food at all. It's a very severe hormonal imbalance. And for some people, keto makes that better. For a lot of people, it doesn't. And anyway, super long story short, I just really, rather than writing out the same email 100 times when people write to me with these types of questions, I said, I'm going to put this all in a book. And I'll just say to somebody, read the book. And it'll be my first book that's not a keto book at all. I don't even know if the word ketogenic is in the manuscript. It's really just a thyroid book. But I just know people are desperate for this information. And unfortunately, their doctors are not helping.
Is that because people go to the doctor with, like, I'm not able to lose weight. I have, losing my hair, cold hands, cold fingers, and then they test, and then you get TSH is all they test, is what I find everyone, doctors. I just had a client before you going over labs, like, okay, they didn't test anything, just like half of what we need. But then they just say you're normal. Your lab results are normal. Because that's what I get. Because we look at functional lab ranges versus a doctor. Everyone's normal, even though you feel like crap.
Exactly. Yes. That is a huge part of the problem, is that doctors only ever test TSH. Now, to not badmouth the profession too much, that's what they were taught. That's all they know. That was the quote unquote gold standard, but it is failing millions and millions of people out there. And I want to say more, but then I'm going to spout out 300 pages worth of book. Well, I don't think it's 300 pages, but that's one of the biggest problems. And the thing is, though, we can take an example from the low carb keto world to see why it's a problem when you're only looking at one little thing. How many millions of people out there have perfectly normal blood sugar? The A1C is good, their fasting glucose is good, but they have all these weird health problems that are sort of quote unquote unexplained. Well, if someone would actually test this person's insulin, it's through the stratosphere. And now we know why these things, why you have PCOS, why you have skin tags, why you're getting migraines, why you have gout. So it's like we're ignoring such a huge factor. And the same thing is true with the thyroid. When we only look at TSH, oh, great, that's normal. Well, what else is going on? You can't tell me that my thyroid is normal when I have 12 screaming signs and symptoms pointing to that.
Yeah.
It's but that is what they were taught, sadly. But they're not taught about low carb diets in medical school either. So they just don't learn everything that they need to learn in those 4 years.
And sadly, people don't refer out and create a team to work with that are doctors and have people around them to help them coach people up. But I think that getting people struggling with fat loss and they choose to go keto, what do you find is the goal right now? Is it to be in nutritional ketosis? Big question all the time. What are you finding, as we've been in this for a long time now? People are struggling with fat loss. They want to improve performance. They want to improve longevity. Is nutritional ketosis still the goal? Should we be there? How long? All the time? What do you think?
I think it's really an individual call. It really depends on what the one person is trying to accomplish, because I think nutritional ketosis is not required to lose weight. Ketosis is not required to maximize athletic performance. It's just not. We know this already just from the course of human life. We know that a ketogenic diet is not the only way to accomplish these things. But with more and more research coming out, for example, for things like psychiatric health, for bipolar, anxiety, schizophrenia, ADD, sometimes those people do need to actually be in ketosis to really get the maximal effect for the brain and for their mood and cognition. But weight loss is a different story. Reversing type 2 diabetes is a different story. I think not everyone needs keto, but some of these people need at least some amount of carbohydrate restriction. And I don't think most people need to be in ketosis all the time. In fact, I was actually just talking to somebody about this the other day. I think the default state of a healthy human body is to go in and out naturally. Some days you're going to eat a little bit more carbs. Some days are going to be less. You're going to sleep better. You're going to sleep worse. Even if you look back evolutionarily, seasonally, we probably would not, depending on where you lived on the earth, you wouldn't have been in a ketogenic state 24/7, 365. So I don't think it's any problem to go in and out. But it depends really on somebody's goal. I don't think it's dangerous. Like, there's a lot of people who think it's dangerous to be in ketosis for long periods of time. I don't think it's dangerous at all, but I also don't think it's necessary for everybody. It's okay to not be in ketosis sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's more looking at if you have brain issues or neuroinflammation or prone to type 3 diabetes, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things like that, cancer, then they should be maybe in ketosis all the time versus someone that's just trying to improve their cognition, brain focus, but also be burning fat and wanting to improve performance and recovery. I think so many people are chasing ketones, and being nutritional ketosis is what they strive to do. And I'm always curious, like, well, is that necessary for you if you don't have cancer, if you don't have Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, epilepsy? Who is it best for?
You must be familiar with the guys at Keto Gains, right?
Yes.
I love their motto: chase results, not ketones.
Yes.
What is your goal? Is your goal to have ketones in your blood, or is your goal to feel well? Mm-hmm. Is your goal to feel great, to look good, to be comfortable in your own skin? Ketones might not be required to help you do that. And I think that using keto or low carb or whatever to sort of maintain health and just feel well is different from using it as an actual quote unquote treatment for a medical condition or for a serious disease. If you're already afflicted with a very serious problem, that might need a different intervention than someone who's not sick and just doesn't want to get sick. Those are very different situations. But I also wanted to say, I think certain neurological conditions, you probably do want to aim for ketosis most of the time. But even outside of that, some people just do feel best when they are in ketosis. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh, nobody needs to be in ketosis. Like, there's definitely a place for it. And I think everybody's different. They really are. But you probably find too, I know I find this with clients, that some people find that their appetite is best controlled when they're actually in ketosis, when their carbs are super low and they're really burning fat well, or especially some of the people with like addictive tendencies towards sugar, they seem to be able to manage that much better when they're stricter versus just kind of lowish carb. So there's definitely a use for strict keto besides severe like medical conditions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then last time we talked to you, you guys had your book with Dr. Eric Westman, End Your Carb Confusion. And I think that's a big topic because right now the industry's going keto to carnivore, and not even kind of was keto carnivore, but there's a lot of people focusing on just animal-based diet. Strict food elimination diet is what it ends up being. I think it's for people that have a lot of gut issues, autoimmune issues, whatnot. But what is your thought on carbs? Are they all evil? Because now people are like, I'm an athlete, I'm exercising, I'm healthy, I'm not metabolically diseased, struggling with any metabolic disease. So do I need to say all carbs are evil? They're not necessary. They're not essential. Where is their place?
Right. This kind of goes back to what I said earlier. We don't need a randomized controlled trial to prove that not all carbs are poison, because the evidence is all around us. We've got millions upon millions of healthy, lean, active people who eat carbs. And I'm not saying to eat Frosted Flake cereal, but carbohydrate per se is not necessarily toxic, right? It's all about the dose and the type and your relationship with it. And it's funny, I feel like things are going in two different directions. We've got some people leaning toward strict carnivore, and then we've got this other camp from, Diet Doctor and Hava, their new endeavor, and Ted Naiman, who are more of this satiety focus, which is for most people ends up being higher carb, not a high carb diet, but higher than strict keto, and certainly higher, more carbs than a carnivore diet. Mm-hmm. And people are doing really well with both. So I think I have recommended the carnivore diet for some people, especially like you said, if just regular keto, and I mean real keto, not wacko internet crazy keto, like a real true ketogenic diet, if that's not getting the job done, if someone still has unexplained stuff going on, especially if it's really mysterious GI stuff or autoimmune like that, I recommend the carnivore diet, at least for some period of time. Like you said, it's kind of the ultimate elimination diet. Let's get rid of everything that's most likely to be causing a problem. Stay with that for a little bit. And then if you want to, let's reintroduce stuff and see how it goes. Mm-hmm. But I've had clients who I also told to eat more carbs. Like you said, someone who's athletic, someone who's lean already. Not everybody needs a strict ketogenic diet. And we're actually doing some people a disservice, I think, when they come to us or they're on social media and they report they're not feeling so well, this and that is happening. And people just tell them, well, keto harder, you need fewer carbs, or you need to eliminate the broccoli. And maybe that is going to work, but maybe they would actually feel better with a little more carbs too.
Yeah. Well, that's what we say. It's N=1. Experiment, and you have to I think it varies too, what type of exercise you're doing, the intensity, the duration, seasonal. It's just so much to it. I think and how much stress is going on in your life, and how are you sleeping, and so many other factors, and just nutrition. But what do you find is necessary for protein goals? I've been really into Dr. Gabrielle Lyon's goals, and just that muscle is an organ of longevity. And, she goes by, I think it's easy because most people don't know their lean body mass, to just say goal is to hit your ideal weight in grams of protein a day and stagger that throughout the day, which leads me to the follow-up question on, should we be fasting, intermittent fasting? So what do you think on protein goals and going from there, macros?
I think that most women, especially, and some men too, but most women are radically under eating protein. I do definitely like to prioritize protein. And it's funny, there's like these wars over carbs, right? And now like there's kind of wars over fat too. Mm-hmm. And very few people are talking about the importance of protein. We're so focused on carbs and fat. And just society or culture, women's magazines have done a real disservice to women over the last 40 years or so, because every magazine you pick up says that your protein should be about the size of the palm of your hand or a deck of cards. And I just think that's insane. There's nothing at all about human physiology or digestion that suggests that that's an appropriate portion. Now, I'm not saying that everybody needs more, but if you're hungry for more, have more. Like that's not, if you are, because I agree with 1 gram of protein per pound of your desired body weight as a goal, but as a ballpark goal. I don't want people to get crazy about, like, your body's not a calculator. You're not going to waste away if you're 2 grams short for 3 days in a row, and you're not going to explode if you're 4 grams over for a week. Like this, as a ballpark, just err on the side of more protein, because I know most women aren't getting enough. So if they just aim to be higher, that's a move in the right direction. But I think I just forgot what I was going to say. If you're only eating that little size, you're probably not going to get there. And there's so many myths about protein, but with regard to intermittent fasting, you can fast, but when you eat, you have to make sure that you're getting enough during the times that you eat. And I do think for some women, emphasis on some, like, if anyone out there is listening and you're doing some type of fasting regimen and it's working and you feel well, then keep doing it. Do not change anything just because you hear someone say something that's different from what you're doing. If you are happy with the results you're getting, then you don't need to change anything. But I see a lot of women fasting a little too much, because they're genuinely afraid to eat more than once or twice a day, or they're afraid to eat for a certain number of hours a day. And I don't subscribe to that. I see it can be, it's one tool like anything else, right? It's like a carnivore diet. It's like keto. It's one tool that can be helpful for some people, but I see people taking it too far. And I see for lack of a better word, the emotional and psychological harm that it can do to be obsessed with, oh, I'm not allowed to eat because my window hasn't opened yet. Well, if you're really hungry, your body is telling you something.
Yeah.
I wish that people were more willing to listen to their bodies rather than listen to Dr. So-and-so on YouTube.
Yeah. I totally agree. I did that myself. I was, how many years ago we started getting into intermittent fasting, and I can't eat 4 o'clock on, but even if I worked out that night and went to bed and I'm hungry, then I'm going to work out first thing in the morning. Should I actually have something to eat? Would that improve my performance and recovery and my sleep if I had something? So you get so stuck, like, I can't eat till 11 a.m. and I need to stop at 4 p.m. And then I got into doing 1 meal a day and not eat anything but just like fat coffee. And I think it really messed me up. But then I see other people, as you're saying, the emotional connection. I think a lot of people that have addictive personalities and relationships with food that could be eating disorder-ish, that fasting got to be of a way of, I can't control when I eat. If I just have one thing, I'll have multiple, go off to binge if I start eating at night and I can't stop eating. So I'm just going to not eat at all. And to me, that led to other problems for some people that struggle with controlling how much they eat by just not eating at all. So it's just like opposite of
not eating at all and then binging.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
your body will rebel eventually. You can't get away with that forever.
Well, they'll have the 1 meal a day that ends up being a binge fast that I'm going to have, 5,000 calories, but it's just 1 meal. So is that,
right?
Good for you. So,
yeah, no. And I wonder, especially, I don't mean to focus so much on women, but I just see this a lot more in women than it happens to men too, but it's more common in women that when they are trying to force themselves into some type of eating window, then they wonder why they're craving food, or they're hungry, or they're cranky, or they're tired. Frankly, they're just not eating enough. And it's such a simple fix, but they're so afraid, And the fact is, when you look at, and I know you know this, but for everyone like listening, when you do a low carb or ketogenic diet correctly, you are already getting the vast majority of hormonal and metabolic effects that fasting gives you anyway. Mm-hmm. We really have no idea how much additional benefit fasting gives you when your insulin and blood sugar are already low normal most of the time anyway. I think fasting can make a much bigger dent in someone who eats junk all day, Because if you're narrowing the time frame in which you eat junk, then you're giving your body that much more time to process that and to get back to normal blood sugar and all that. But when you eat low carb anyway, again, I don't think people realize that you are already getting most of the benefits that people fast for in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And if you exercise too, if you're looking for cell autophagy, I was looking up, okay, how do you get cell autophagy? How do you get rid of the dead cells? Exercising was a big part of it. So it's not that we just only option is to do not eating, intermittent fasting, time restricted feeding, that to get the benefits of cell autophagy that you need to go 17 hours or longer, 24-hour fast to get those benefits. So there is other methods than just fasting. So I think that's important to look at.
Yeah.
But with the protein, so figuring out the protein to fat ratios, because this is, I always say this too, that we went from, the high carb standard American diet to paleo to keto, all about fat, eat as much fat as you want. Now we're going, okay, what happened to protein? We lost it along the way. Now it's all about animal-based diet, eat protein to feel full and satiated. But that just like, all right, well now fat is in there too, but the fat's coming from more the animal-based fatty meats. And so I think it's figuring out, okay, going back to fasting and the protein goals. So if I'm trying to get, say, 100 grams of protein a day, or spread that out to get every 3 to 4 hours, I have 30 to 50 grams of protein. I can't do intermittent fasting. Because if I'm trying to get that goal, well, that's what's changed my mind. Like, well, my goals for my aging and not losing muscle and gaining muscle and getting stronger as I get older, not get that typical loss of muscle as you age process. So then you have to hit those protein goals, but then where the fat, you're getting, some people say like 70, 80% fat, 20, 30% protein, and then the carbs are 0 for a keto carnivore. And then, okay, should I have carbs or not? So now you feel guilty if you have carbs. So then you're thinking, okay, 0 carbs is what everyone's talking about. But if you're exercising anaerobically, I'm depleting that muscle glycogen storage. So maybe I can be okay having some nature's carbs post-workout or in my evening meal. So really working on that personalized nutrition program with clients so they can feel, okay, let's kind of revisit what are your goals, as you're saying, what am I working on? If it's fat loss or maybe it's just performance, but hopefully everyone's working on longevity. So anything on that, like where protein and fat fit in and carbs for people that are not metabolically damaged? Or actually, I think everyone is probably, a lot of athletes can have probably blood sugar issues and insulin resistance. So I'm sure they've got, no one's perfect.
Right.
Just because you exercise doesn't mean you're healthy.
Before I get into that though, I want to say, you said if you're trying to get that 100 grams of protein or whatever, 30 to 50 every few hours, you can't intermittent fast. You can, it just depends on how you define that. If you're defining it as 16 hours, 18 hours, well, no, maybe not, but 10 hours, 12 hours. Yeah. And so intermittent fasting, I don't mean to say it's a made up phrase, but it's a human invented concept. It's not like a fact of the universe. So your window is whatever you decide it is. Could be 10 hours, could be 12, could be 14, could be none. But you know what I mean? You could eat that much protein and eat that many times a day, depending on how you define fasting. So
it's not just 16-8 or more, that you can do intermittent fasting in a 12 to 15 hour window, which is what's suggested for more athletes to be. Normal should be 12 hours should be your normal, is what I hear more so, versus I think of intermittent fasting as the 16-8, kind of the standard now. And then more than that for cell autophagy, that dimming switch Dr. Mindy Pelz talks about, and, really getting people to fast more. But then it's like, okay, how am I going to get all my nutrients I need? How am I going to get enough calories to build muscle and to improve performance and all that part of it?
Yeah. But with regard to macros, your clientele is a little different from you're working with like competitive athletes, and they really want every edge they can get, where things really, we're talking about fractions of a second that could mean the difference between winning a race or not, or qualifying or whatever. My clients are not really in that category. And so for my sort of clientele, I like to get people away from worrying about the math and trying to count everything and measure everything and track everything. Most people come to me already having done that, and they're exhausted. They're demoralized, they're fried, they're sick of it. They just want to eat food and go live their life, and preferably lose weight and get healthy while they're doing it. And so again, it's all individual. I think when somebody's new to this, I don't worry about macros at all. There's a food list, eat this. If it's not on the list, don't eat it. And then if somebody hits a roadblock where, okay, all of a sudden now it's not working anymore, you were getting great results for a while, now it's slowing down, or there's a problem, then we can troubleshoot. Maybe we are having too much fat. Maybe we're not having enough protein. So I just don't believe that there's anything magical about percentages of protein, fat, and or carbohydrate that's going to change somebody's world. Now that could be different, like you were saying, in epilepsy and cancer, those ratios might matter a little more. But for athletic performance, for weight loss, I don't think macros matter as much as, and I hate this word, but the C word, calories, and what you eat and how much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think, to go back to what I love, what you preach is about keeping it simple and the confusion of, okay, do I count calories? Do I count macros? And how do you know how much to eat? And is it just listening to our body and looking at how do you feel after you eat? Are you full for 4 hours? Are you satiated? Do you have cravings? Did you look at more of that kind of metabolic check in with yourself, diet check record type of log?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to do it, is how do you feel? Mm-hmm. We're so dependent on apps and tracking and devices that we forget to actually check in with our own bodies. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I blame anyone, right? We've outsourced this because we're confused. We don't know what to think. We don't trust ourselves. So of course, we'd rather trust the app. We trust the sleep ring. We trust the step counter and the heart rate variability. But we just kind of shut down and ignore how we feel. So yeah, that's when somebody's doing this right. And that's a bad way to say it. But let's say when somebody finds the foods and the timing that work well for them, they should be able to go a few hours without eating, without even really thinking about food. You're just no cravings, no, intrusive thoughts of food. You feel well, you have energy, you're able to think clearly. And I think and of course, if you're trying to lose weight, is that happening? Whatever your goal is, if you're trying to lower your blood sugar, lower your blood pressure, is that happening? Mm-hmm. That'll tell you whether or not what you're doing is working. Are you getting the results you want? So
simple.
Yeah.
That's what I ask people. People get so confused and struggle with getting results. Or for us, I know Stephanie Holbrook has a keto endurance page, and people are like trying to stay in nutritional ketosis on their bike ride and, trying to do all this stuff. Like, what's the point? What does it matter? And, just going to keeping it simple. That is your workout fast? Are you feeling strong and powerful, or are you struggling? So then eat. It just drives me nuts that people get so confused and set that I have to be in ketosis while I'm exercising and all day long. And that's always been my question. Like, well, why? Then if you're not eating, I can do this fasted bike ride for 4 hours and just drink water and salt. Okay, but how's your speed? How's your power output?
Exactly. I mean, we've been made literally terrified of food. Mm-hmm. People think that there's a binary system here, that you're either fasting or you're giving yourself cancer. There's nothing in between. If you're eating, you're spiking insulin and mTOR, and oh my God, I'm building cancer as we speak, or I'm fasting for a week. No, This is ludicrous. And it is. But this is really what some people think out there. I mean, maybe not quite that bluntly, but it's a jungle out there.
So what's the goal then?
Sorry, what'd you say?
What do you think the goal is? Is it metabolic flexibility? What should we be striving for just looking at aging process?
I mean, the goal is to love your life. The goal is to feel good and be happy and be content and have healthy relationships and be as physically mobile as you can be within whatever, maybe you're disabled in some way. The goal is to be able to enjoy your life. The goal is not to be in ketosis. The goal is not to have a 12-pack abs. The goal is to be a happy human, in my opinion. Maybe that's not everybody's goal, but do you know what I mean? We're so focused on this other stuff that who cares if your A1C is 4.9 if you're miserable? If you are just unhappy from morning till night, what's the point? So, a more concrete answer to your question, I think physically, to me, the goal should be metabolic flexibility. And by that, I mean, you can eat keto or you can eat a little bit of carbs and you feel equally well. If you have the carbs, it doesn't trigger acid reflux. It doesn't trigger a headache or brain fog or acne or low energy. Your body adapts easily to whatever it's being fed, assuming it's not being fed Pop-Tarts and cheese doodles and stuff like that. So, I think that's the ideal, but it's also fine if somebody doesn't want to go back and forth between a little bit more carb versus keto. If you just want to stay in ketosis all the time too, that's fine. But I just think the goal is to feel well. And some people need a little bit of carbohydrate to feel their best. Some people don't. Some people, like you said, depending on the situation, did you just come off a 50-mile bike ride or were you sitting at your desk for 3 days in a row? So it's that factors into it too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think a lot of it, I see we've both got our Aura rings, and I know some people that wear Aura and a Whoop strap and have their Garmin watch, and then they're using the CGMs and testing their glucose or the ketones with Keto Mojo. We're collecting all this data, which is great, but then it's always a Goldilocks for everything. I say that just the right amount we're not obsessed, and we're not forgetting to listen to our body and actually check in with ourselves. How do I feel today? Even though my scores are 90 on my Aura ring, but I still feel like crap. So, listen to yourself as well as track things. But I think we get so obsessed with the hacking strategies, and we need to, sometimes it goes back to my new mantra is less is more.
Less is definitely more for some people. And I think these wearable, and it's funny that I have an Aura ring because I'm like the queen of low key, non-tech stuff. But it's like you said, sometimes I'll wake up feeling great and I look at the ring data and it's like, oh, my sleep was really bad. And then I'll almost feel bad because I probably should feel bad. Or so I take it with a very large grain of salt. I don't take any of this data as gospel. And I don't like with the CGM, it's becoming so big now, and they can definitely be helpful. You can learn a lot from a CGM, but I don't think anyone needs to be wearing a CGM for a year or 2 years. And I've had clients come to me where they've been wearing it for a year, 18 months. If you have type 1 diabetes, that's an exception, in my opinion. Yeah, you probably should take advantage of every piece of technology you can that's going to help you and help you stay safe. But for other people, I just think, and the funny thing is that I think that the people who love this technology the most are the people who need it the least. It's the people who are they're already athletic, they're already lean, they're already healthy, and they just, but it's fine. This is a free country. If you want to wear every device and use every gadget, do it. That's your freedom to do that. But
that's so true.
If you haven't learned enough from your CGM after 6 months, you might as well throw it out because you're not going to learn anything else.
Well, yeah, you might be wearing it as a badge of honor that, okay, I'm a cool, hacking my health and taking ownership, but then you're not doing anything with that data. It's like how many people have Oura Ring that never really use that data to, take into account when they're scheduling their day or their workouts or just optimizing their sleep and figuring out how to improve their sleep.
Yeah. Well, I owned the ring for about 6 months before I started wearing it. So I'm right there, I guess.
So going back to hormones and kind of finishing up, going back to thyroid health, because we talked about nutrition and keto, carnivore, and eating those hormones to help feed our sex hormones by eating fat. So cholesterol makes our sex steroid hormones. And then we need certain foods, the meat, iodine and tyrosine make our thyroid hormones. How is it nutritional therapy can help with our building our thyroid health and, managing our stress is a big part of, I think, thyroid health and our liver congestion and gut health. But what are some things that you can give sneak peeks to your book that we can learn about how to optimize our thyroid health? Because I think majority of us has low thyroid, but why is it so prevalent? Why are we all struggling with sluggish thyroid?
That's a great question. And no one seems to really know the answer for certain. There's a lot of possibilities. One, I personally don't think that in the developed world, I don't think most hypothyroidism is overt iodine deficiency or selenium deficiency. I just don't think that's the case. I'm willing to be wrong for sure. But I do think I'm learning more and more about iron deficiency without anemia. So you get a CBC, you get bloods done, and hemoglobin's fine, hematocrit, everything's fine, but there's more advanced iron tests that can be done that will show you being low. And iron is really critical for the thyroid. And there's a lot of women with iron deficiency for whatever reason, especially those who bleed heavily. But even if you don't, all these women who are skimping on red meat and other iron-rich foods. Some of us could eat plenty of iron-rich foods and we're not absorbing it properly for some reason. So sometimes we need supplements. But I will say two of the biggest things with thyroid, especially in our community, is that when you have yo-yo dieted for years, as many of our clients have, your metabolic rate takes a beating in that process. It really does. It's going to be a little bit slower each time, so that when we get these middle-aged women who've been on the diet roller coaster for 20, 30, 40 years, their metabolisms are just in the basement. Their metabolic rate is just so slow that even on a strict ketogenic or carnivore diet, they are not losing weight. And I'm not talking about the last 5 or 8 pounds. We're talking about people that have a substantial amount to lose, and it is not budging. And I don't know how you feel, but nobody should have to starve themselves to lose weight. Nobody should have to subsist on 800 calories a day to lose weight. If you're 200, 250 pounds, you should not have to eat that little to be able to lose weight. So if you're doing strict keto or carnivore and the weight's not moving, I suspect a hormonal roadblock or some other issue going on. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that we see that can cause the thyroid is more so in your type of population. It's athletes who are overtraining and underfueling. They're just not eating enough, and their body, as a protective mechanism, it's slowing them down so that they don't burn out. I think the sort of red flags for me in this type of situation is someone who's very, very athletic, working out a lot on a very low carb diet, maybe doing some fasting, maybe not, but they're doing really well for a while, but they reach a point where they start getting really fatigued and sluggish, maybe a little bit of depression, starting to lose hair. They're losing oomph at the gym. They're losing power and they're losing strength and endurance. And they wonder, what else do I need to cut out of my diet? What more do I need to do, when it's actually they need to do less? They need to give their body a rest. But I think those are the two biggest things I see with thyroid. And I think that yo-yo dieting explains a lot of the hypothyroidism that we see.
I always I always thought of that for my own self because I looked back at college, high school, started dieting, and then college, I was into diets, and it was more so started high school, just doing the soup diet and this diet. And then I got into seeing a nutritionist, then I stopped eating, and then I started just eating foods, too many carbs. And I was on the, healthy high carb diet back in my day in college that, fat was bad, protein I forgot about, and then ate only carbs. So I always feel like I messed up my metabolism back then that I would eat just all bagels all day. That I was so healthy because I had fat free and I ate salads and bagels, that I was totally deficient in the hormones or the fat to make my hormones and protein building blocks. So I think I can see that starting back, but a lot of people are given thyroid medication. Do you tackle this in your book, that how to improve thyroid health and if it's necessary to take a thyroid hormone?
Yeah, actually the book is largely about testing and treatment with medication, because not everybody is going to be able to correct this naturally. Mm-hmm. Ideally, that's what happens. If there's a nutrient insufficiency or deficiency, that gets corrected. If it's coming from stress, and we actually say that in the book, ideally, you will do some detective work and uncover why this problem has happened with your hormones. But that can take a really long time, and there's no reason to feel terrible in the meantime. Why don't you use the medicine? Let's avail ourselves of modern medical technology where it can really help, and then you can, over time, try to figure out what's going on, because it is not true that once you start thyroid medicine, you will need to take it for the rest of your life. You can correct thyroid problems. The exception to that, though, is, of course, someone who's had their thyroid gland removed or irradiated. Like if your gland is either missing or just non-functional, yeah, you will need to take thyroid hormone replacement for life. But if that's not your situation, you can start the medicine at the same time as you start to make lifestyle and diet changes. And then, work with your doctor, maybe taper off or lower the dose and see how you do. Mm-hmm. And just like any other medicine, if you start to do not so well, go back on it or re-increase the dose. So we do talk about that, because I have a ton of clients who are on thyroid medicine, but they still feel like garbage. They have all the same signs and symptoms they had before the medicine, because they're not on the right kind of medicine. And there's an entire chapter on that, on the right type of medicine.
Yeah, I think that's so important, because so many people I know, when I was personal trainer full time, I know my fitness studio, that every female I ever worked with, and maybe, I don't even know if men were, but everybody seemed to have some thyroid medication. Oh, I've been on it for years, but they still struggled. And it's like, okay, it's not really helping, is it? But, looking at now, how's your liver congestion? Are you able to convert T4 to inactive T4 to the active T3? How's your gut health? Because that's an important part of the conversion, and looking at all these other factors, and rather just take this to fix that, but not look at why is it broken and which part of the system is not functioning optimally, and how we can restore the body to do what it's supposed to do naturally with its own innate intelligence. Just give it the building blocks.
I totally agree. I'm on thyroid medicine myself. I'm not happy about it. I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad it's helping me, but I wish I didn't need it. But I haven't yet been able to figure out why this happened. Mm-hmm. And but I think I agree. Ideally, we get to the bottom of things and we correct the root cause. Because if you correct the cause, you don't need the medicine anymore. Yeah. But my biggest symptom personally with low thyroid is depression. And so if you're in that place, you don't have the emotional wherewithal to want to investigate and to want to try to research and learn. So I'm not telling anyone to take medicine, but you have the option to take medicine in the meantime, start feeling better, and then use that energy that you have now all of a sudden to start digging into what's going on. Because when I'm down in the dumps, forget it. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. You got a order of operations, and look at what you need to do to kickstart everything, and then have the ingredients you need to get yourself up to a little bit more energy. So then you can then address the lifestyle habits and how we start the day and how we end the day and really thriving each day. And then you can wean yourself off of that. But figuring out the whole person, all these other lifestyle habits. And I always have the mantras, the positive attitude, positive energy, positive vibes, and really, writing in my journal at night and set intentions for the next day and get the right mindset, because it is easy to, have those negative thoughts and put ourselves in that spot, but just how to pull ourselves out. So anyways, so much to it, but we look forward to your book coming out. And I think thyroid's just such a big topic, and a lot of people still struggle with even just doing the nutrition, and they just can't figure out why, what else is off, what's going on, and really looking at the root cause. But being an investigator, being as we are, and what I do is coaching people and collecting clues and putting the missing pieces of the puzzle together so they can feel their best and thrive every day and get their body back where they want it. Because I don't feel like we should use age as an excuse that, okay, this is just happening because I'm getting older and this is part of the aging process, is one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, no, I don't think that's normal. And that you can actually take ownership and do something about it. And you don't have to feel that way. But that's what doctors almost teach us. That like, oh, you're just getting older. That's just, someone tells me that, I just want to punch them in the face.
Yeah. I mean, I do think someone who's 90 isn't going to feel what they felt when they were 20. But, 50s, 60s, if we're healthy.
Middle age.
It doesn't have to be a drop off a cliff.
Yeah, I know. I had someone tell me that. I remember when I started having my adrenal stuff at 42 years old, and I had an acupuncturist tell me, someone that studied Chinese medicine said, well, you're just getting older. I want to say, oh, the bad word.
Not that old,
Yeah. Like, I'm 42. This is not normal. So anyways, I think it's really good what you're doing and following your passion and your mission out there to help other people and keep educating, because you are such a good writer and speaker. And I think you make it simple and you make it fun to read. So make sure you guys get the book. Is there going to be pre-order eventually when you're ready to launch?
Eventually, but if anyone's wondering why we haven't said the name of the book, we actually don't have a title yet. My co-author and I are still writing it, so we do not have a name yet. But if you follow me on social media or follow Debbie, we'll be sharing it. And I don't think at the rate we're going, it probably won't be out until the new year. But who knows? Maybe sometime this winter.
So I wrote down your book title for you. You said something.
Oh, yeah? What is it?
The Hormonal Roadblock.
Ooh. Somebody suggested that because of End Your Carb Confusion, it should be End Your Thyroid Confusion, but I don't like that.
Yeah, you could do that, but I think there's just a roadblock. It's like what we struggle, we're doing the nutrition part, but what else is missing? What's the roadblock? And you said that, was like, aha, I'm going to write that down for you. But hormonal, that's if you talk about other hormones too, but or the thyroid segment.
The whole book is really just thyroid, but that's still a good title. The fat loss roadblock. You can
put that in the book. Thanks to Debbie Potts for giving me the title. All right. So where can people find you best? On your Twitter page or Facebook or?
Yeah,
website?
my main website is terribly out of date, so I don't even send people there anymore. It's my blog. I mean, you can read all the old stuff there, but that's tuitnutrition.com, TUIT nutrition.com. But my YouTube channel is Amy Berger, Keto Without the Crazy. So you can just look me up on YouTube. And my most active social media is Twitter, and my handle is tuitnutrition. And you can look me up on Amazon, find the other books. And actually, I do want to mention, I still work with Dr. Westman at Adapt Your Life Academy. That's a long website name. It's adaptyourlifeacademy.com. We have online courses about keto. We have a course on cholesterol. We're actually doing one on protein with Mike and Mary Dan Eads right now of Protein Power fame. So we have one on sugar addiction. So there's just a whole bunch of online courses people can do there.
Yeah, and they're great and they're affordable and easy to do anywhere. So that's smart. Keep people educated. More power. Knowledge is power. All right, Amy, have a great weekend and we'll be in touch.
All right, take care.
Hey, my fellow aging endurance athletes, just a reminder, if you like what you listened to today, make sure to share this episode with your community. Head to debbiepotts.net to set up a free discovery call to learn more about my personalized coaching programs, especially if you are on a mission as myself to improve the aging process and start training to be my best self when I am 80, 90 years old. So I am on a mission to live my best life and be my best self the second half of my life. So if you're on the same mission as me, head over to my website and YouTube channel to learn more ways to improve the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. If you are struggling trying to figure out what to eat, how to train, how to recover, how you should create that sleep hygiene routine, and what to do to improve your performance in life and for your future self, then head to debbiepotts.net and set up a discovery call with me to learn about my coaching packages, 4 different levels, and we can help find a solution for you.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.